Hello. Today I'm going to have the first in a two-part tutorial. I normally do everything in one go, but today I'm going to split it into two. This is the design for a truck for usage on land within the game. The first thing that would be probably recommended for anyone who's going to do this is to actually get a picture of said truck, and I'll put one on the screen now, which I found by simply googling American Truck Simulator. So the first thing we're going to have to do, well, I'm going to show you my previous versions that I've made in the past so that we can at least demonstrate why I'm doing this. So the first one I'm going to load is the original truck that I've created. I've very conveniently named it trucking. It's not exactly overly descriptive, but still. So it looks like a truck, it works like a truck, it just gets stuck on some land from time to time. It's not bad, it does its job. I've shown it off in another one of my videos. So the next one I'm going to show you is what you could end up doing with your truck, especially if you are like me and end up driving along and going, I'm actually now in the middle of the water. So all I've done is I've added some propellers to the back and a rudder, and it functions just the same as if it would on land except in water. The weight keeps the rear down in the water, the front sticks itself out a little bit. It's a little bit too heavy on the rear, but it does its job. So, how to build one. So, the first thing we're going to do is obviously get our block. So this is the quick B and then caps lock, so that we don't drop it to the ground straight away. I've built my truck previously out of light alloy, this way that the wheels, the driving wheels in particular, don't struggle quite so much to get it up to a decent speed. So I'm going to use a 4-meter beam to get myself started and mirror it. So the hardest part about this is to try to figure out roughly how wide you want it. So the way I do it is I do a little bit in length and a little bit in width, just so that we've kind of got a rectangle to work from. So this is 4 in length and a total of 7 in width. So that includes the middle as well. So I'm actually only building 1/2, but it's mirroring it for me. So the reason I'm building it at this particular size and level to start with is so that I can determine how to build it. Next thing I'm going to get is a radiator. So most trucks have a nice big grille on the front, which is the reason why I'm using it. Obviously you can have twin grills if you want a larger engine and so on. So I'm going to use a large radiator, and I'm going to raise it into position by pressing F3 and then literally going up and build. So we now actually have the centre of the vehicle with a radiator built, so we can build around it. So the simplest thing here to do is get a 4-meter block again, rotate it on each side, and then build across like so. So we now have the front of a truck effectively, and this is where we can start determining how much width we actually want and where things are going to go. So the particular design I'm going to go for has a couple of lights on it, so I'm going to have a couple of light width, then I'm going to have a gap because it's going to have an edge. So we've now got the width of our vehicle. I'm not going to go any further back than this because a front wheel needs to be on here somewhere, so I'm going to leave this gap here for a front wheel. Right, up to the top here. So an engine has to have, well, some engine parts. So the simplest thing here is, so firstly I'm going to build it something to stand on. So I can have the crankshaft in direct line for the radiator. So let's put a fuel engine in here. I've made it a little bit longer than I would ordinarily make it, but it doesn't really matter, to be fair. It's up to you how accurate you want to build your truck. In fact, I'm going to build it a little bit closer, I think. 3, 6. Okay, so now it's attached, I can actually move it a bit closer anyway. So 1, 2. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4. Fuel, there we go, one of those, one of those. Okay, so we've got 5 in length. The reason I've done this is because I actually want to create a more effective, real-looking engine. So this is going to be a beautiful, massively complicated 4-cylinder affair, like so. So we've got a massive amount of power in here so far, coming to a total of 40. I'm going to build onto the side of this some carburetors. Carburetors provide an extra 100 power. And lastly, I'm going to stick a load of superchargers on the top. It's not essential to have a supercharger, but they look nice. It's facing the wrong way actually, because it should be facing the front of the vehicle. Right, there we go. So we've got a front of the vehicle facing. So at this stage you can choose how you want to do it. You can have a 1 exhaust or a 2 exhaust truck. I'm actually going to build a 1 exhaust truck with this particular design because of how I've done it. If I wanted 2 exhausts, I'd probably split the cylinders down, 1 on each side. That's how I've done it on my other truck that I've created, but this one's going to have just a single exhaust out of one side. So the exhausting system is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. We get a corner pipe on the very end one, and then we use throughput pipes for the rest. 1, 2, 3. So now we have this, we can determine where to send this piece of pipe. Send it wherever you want, to be fair. It doesn't make a huge difference. I'm going to give this thing a little bit more power by adding, where is it, an injector to this last cylinder. Let's stick a straight pipe in there. So now we've got that, I can turn this down like there, so, and this. There we go, one of those like that, and like that. Okay, so I'm not going to attach the exhaust to where it's going yet because I want to build the rest of the vehicle around it first. So we've got that built, that's ready to go. This is amazing so far, not. Now, most engines require fuel, and because this isn't really a vehicle for destruction in this game, I'm going to add the fuel to the engine itself. So we're going to get some 4 meter length fuel boxes, and I'm going to stick them there, and I'm also going to use a couple of 2 meter storage ones here, like so. So it just looks like it's sitting on something then. It doesn't look like it's a completely empty engine. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring along our side parts here, all the way up to cover the engine. It's not 100%, but it's close. So the next stage is to add a couple of downslopes. Now this is what effectively makes it an iconic engine frontage for a truck. There we go, we now actually have a more iconic fronting of a truck. And down the centre, a line of this. You could use longer blocks if you wanted. I'm just using singles. So here we have it, a front of a vehicle almost ready. So I'm not going to go into any further details at the front at this stage. I'm now going to roughly estimate how long I want this vehicle to be. So at this point here, I know this is going to be where the driver cab window is going to place. So it's at the back of the engine, front of the driver cab. So I know the driver cab's going to be at least 8 in length, just from purely looking at the side. And then I know behind that there's usually like a sleeper section in a number of trucks, depending on the truck of course. So I'm going to build an extra section here and bring it out to the same width as the front. So we're at the same width as the front. and now I'm going to bring it up in height to the same level as the window would be, just for now. It's about there. So I will be readjusting this bit later on because this is too wide at the front. It should only be about two. Actually, I'll do it now. It should be about too wide. There we go. And that will be the size of the bumper at the end of it. So now we can determine how wide the wheel is going to be. And I would say a wheel should be 3 in width, and therefore the cavity should be 5 in width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the cavity width there. So that's the edge. Which means that we can bring our truck design out to here, like so. Our cavity set ready to go for our wheel. Okay, so now we're looking at it, and now I've built this up to this point here. I can determine whether I feel it looks right or not. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. Okay, so from my opinion, I would say that is about right, possibly for the driver cab. So now I've extended the driver cab by 1. I'm not going to build up any higher than this at this stage. I'm now going to build backwards. So 3, 4. I would suggest that looks about the right length for the vehicle. Let's zoom out and have a look. Yeah, about the right length. Okay, so we need to widen the vehicle except for the rear part here. So I'm going to do what I did at the front. I'm going to use, so that should be in line. So this is 7 in from the centre. So we've now got a total width of 13, if anyone's looking for numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks from the back of the driver cab section, 3 blocks for the driver cab section, and 2 blocks for the front engine section. And when I say blocks, I'm talking 4 metre blocks. Okay, so most trucks are kind of flatbed towards the rear, so that's how I'm going to make mine. I'm going to fill in the area for the wheels in a minute, rather than cutting it in as I go. Okay, that's one side. That's the other side. Give that a moment to fill in. And let's borrow that. Oh, let's just click it in. There. Okay, so we've got our full length of our vehicle now. This will be the full length, plus or minus a little bit depending on how it looks later on. So I'm now going to remove this piece and this piece. So we need a rear wheel. So this is going to be one rear wheel. I'm going to give a gap of 2, 3. Let's make it 3. And then we're going to have another 5. So like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And that's approximately the gapping for it. So I can now clear in. So 3 in from 3 in from the edge. That gives us enough distance to build our wheel and actually allow it to stick out a bit. 1, 2. I can't delete that one. I might be able to replace it with 3 beam. Yes, I can. So there we go. A little bit of trickery there to keep it on and attached without having it drop off. Okay, so we now have our rear design set and sorted. Doesn't really look much like a truck at this stage, but we're only just starting, to be fair. So the last stage I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create. I want to make this a little bit lower first. We're going to create the front wheels and light section, and I'm going to leave it there for this first part. So the wheels won't be built in this particular tutorial either, but the wheel arches and the lights will be. So the first things first is, where do you want to place your lights? So the easiest thing to do is get yourself a single one slope and build it all the way to the edge, because this is going to be the complete wheel arch here. I've actually built this too far forward, so I'm going to bring this down like so. There we go. So we've got 2 wheel arching sections. The next section I will want to use one of those there and one of those there. So this is where I can place my lights. Now, conveniently, they have provided us with some lovely neon lights. I need to create this first though. So if I get the neon lights from, is it Misk? No, it's Decorations, isn't it? Neon lights from here, and place them approximately there. That provides us with a nice light on the front, on both sides. It's roughly the right side. They look roughly right as well. Let's place one of those there and one of those there. So that puts it within its slant. Now, because we're up to this point here, we can do the same on this side. So you can see there's a gap of 4 left. So I'm going to use 2 meter on the front, and I think I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Let's move this back a little bit. So that's removed from there. So what I've done, I've deliberately moved it back a little bit because it didn't look quite right to me to have it slanted at the top. So let's put this in here like this. Another one of these in here like so. Get rid of that. One of those. One of those, one of those, one of those. One of those. Okay, so it's starting to look like a wheel hub section here, and if we look at it from the front, actually doesn't look too bad at all. It's completely up to you how you smooth it out. I'm using a fairly basic curving system here, so it's 1 1 2 space 2 1 1, so it's equal on both sides. So the last few things I'm going to do, I'm going to expand out our engine a little bit to a point where we can start curving it round. So one of those, one of those. So this is a rather basic design, but crude is sometimes better than not crude. As you can see, it's not perfectly lined up, but this can be adjusted with smaller blocks and adjustable blocks and so on. Now, I will probably be readjusting this again later, because in my view this is too sharp an angle for a window. As you remember, there's going to be a window going here. Let's bring this forward a little bit further, so we don't have quite so far to travel for our window. So what I'll probably end up doing is curving a little bit, straightening maybe one block a little bit and then curving back again. Not quite sure at this stage, but I don't make things up as I go along, honest. It is starting to look like the front of a truck though. The rear of the truck is plain, but then the only thing really to be done here is some wheel arches and a little bit of design in the rear to fit in the actual design. So it could end up that we end up with, as I've done with my other truck, a load of resources just literally stacked up at the back of the cab, which is all that you require to make it look like cabling or cable conduits or something like that. If you look up some trucks, you'll see what sort of thing I mean. It's interesting how they're always designed very differently. Anyway, so I'm going to leave the tutorial here at the end of part 1. Part 2 will be to complete this truck, and hopefully the design will be well, much to everyone's satisfaction. I'm off to go and make my tea now, so thank you and goodbye.